It's Perfectly Queer with It Gets Better.
Hi, friends. Hi, Tayler. How are you? Welcome to Perfectly Queer with the It Gets Better project. I'm Ever, your resident non-binary butch.
And I'm Tayler, your semi-friendly neighborhood chaos bisexual.
And together we are here to help you live your boldest, most authentic life.
Absolutely. And to help you build community and spark joy amongst each other for maybe roughly an hour.
Give or take an hour, we are here for you, but we're always here for you. Y'all,
Absolutely.
we are here to be in community with you, to celebrate your victories, both big and small, and hear about how your life is going. And look,
Absolutely.
like, we know that the world can be a lot, especially right now, and we're here to help you make sense of it.
Absolutely. What's going on in the chat? How's everybody
I know,
doing?
how's everybody? Okay, Nova Jones said, LOL, semi-friendly.
Thank you, Shelter Whimsy, for being a big fan of me and a big fan of Legos. I'm also a big fan of you.
Lego. Oh my God. Can we get a You're
semi-friendly
gay.
is right, Nova Jones. Because some people don't deserve friendliness, frankly. So
I will say that. Yes, you could say that again. Some people don't deserve
yeah.
friendliness, but we,
Yeah.
how is everybody else doing? We drop it in the chat. We want to know how the chat's doing. Yes, Zolita, you're here. You're right. You heard that right. Zolita's here. I'm excited for Zolita.
Yes. Radio, period. I love that. I love that emotion.
Yeah.
Please, not Patrick. With the
with the person. Y'all, we have an incredible show for you today. As always, we're going to start with the queer current. We're going to be giving you the top 5 news stories. And we've got the queer current. We've got their friend of the family. And today we are talking with Zolita. You might remember her. We showed her a video single in September on our last show. And guess what? Now she's chatting with us on this show. And then absolutely. And then we're going to the Converse quick hits, where we're looking at friends, trends, and odds and ends from all over the internet. And then we're going to be watching some incredible speeches by Kyung from Queerly Creative. He is part of the It Gets Better Youth Voices. He's making some incredible change in the world. And that leads us to Thrive and Enliven. We're actually having a nice chat with Zach. It's so great. You're not going to want to miss this interview. And of course, we're always going to end with Let's Talk About It, where we're going to be answering all of your questions.
Absolutely. And that is going to be our show. We got a lot to cover. We got a lot of ground to get through, you guys. So, buckle in, strap in with us, get ready for the ride of your life or of your week or of your day or whatever. And let's get into the queer current.
But first, yes. Let me pull this Bronco over right quick.
How could I ever? Oh my goodness. And we love to say thank you to our sponsors, the Humble Bundle community, for which without this show, without their generous contribution, this show would not exist. I cannot believe that I almost forgot that.
Honestly, it's been a lot this week in the news, and it's only Wednesday. So
it's true.
Buckle up for sure, y'all, because right now it's the queer current.
As we know, the news never stops. However, it can also be incredibly gay, which I guess is the silver lining in all of this.
Y'all, the chat is blowing up.
Does Ever have a Bronco?
Yeah, I have a Bronco. That's my whole personality right now.
Every time.
Y'all, look. Our first news segment is that everyone is coming out. It's post-Pride, but that doesn't mean Pride stops. Marvel has introduced 4 new transgender superheroes, which I'm excited about. I love the work that Marvel is doing.
It's so cool. I mean, we've talked before about our both of our loves of X-Men specifically, and how it's very much an allegory for queerness, and how we love to see the continuation of just queer superheroes or queerness in superhero narratives. But then also obviously Stranger Things is back. It is a pop cultural moment every time it comes out. And they themselves have also kind of like moved into trying to like get into the nuances of queerness in the 80s, which is like a daunting task considering that like this is the time of Reagan and the AIDS crisis and like a bunch of other things
and
going on in
Nancy
the
Reagan saying AIDS wasn't real.
Right, like and so it's kind of, even though the Stranger Things like fandom is kind of split on how they feel about the representation, whether it's good, whether it's bad, whether it's positive, whether it's negative, I think we can all agree that it's great that we're even able to have the conversation and have like a varied conversation, because before we kind of just had to sit with it and be like, well, at least someone's gay, but now we can be like, no, this representation is this, and so I think it gives a great opportunity to be able to foster that kind of like discourse, which I really love.
I also really love the way that they're showing Will's queerness, because as someone who didn't come out until much later in life, I resonate so hard when he's like, no, you should be with Elle. And it's clear, like, I also understand the other hand is like, we should stop showing queer stories where they're pining after heterosexuals. But for me, when like someone who was like trying to find the means or the way to come out, I was like, oh, okay, I see what this is. But also like,
yeah. And I like the subtle moments. I won't talk about it a lot, but like there is a moment between him and Jonathan later on in this season that I think really speaks to how like these moments necessitate a certain level of nuance for depending on the context, you know, like this is the 80s and they live in a small town and it's just like, you know, there are pathways that just aren't viable all the time, you know? And so I like that the show kind of explores what that means. In that way. And then also, you know, in real life, we have queer content creators. Nate Stevenson, who is the creator of She-Ra, recently came out and goes by he, him pronouns. And it's just, he made a
Nate
cute
Stevenson.
comic and everything.
Honestly, Tayler, I love the way that Nate came out with the graphic. Like, hi, I'm Nate. So I was cute. Like, oh my God.
So cute.
Put it on a card. I want to mail it to someone.
Yeah, it's amazing. And I like also just like how I guess he's allowing it to be complicated. Like he's like, yeah, sometimes, you know, daughter doesn't feel right, or like son doesn't feel right, and wife still feels okay, but spouse is fine. Like I like that he's defining his parameters the way that he wants them to be respected, because at the end of the day, like your pronouns and how you want people to relate to you, like that is a deeply individual process. And I like that he is willing to like make that known to people and be open with that. I think that's amazing.
Also, I love to our next story is incredible. It's talking about incredible. Shangela became the first drag queen to attend a UAS. I sound like one of those TikTok robots. A UAS. I'm a TikTok robot today. What can I say? I'm a TikTok robot, boys. To attend a United States Vice President event. This is huge.
Yeah, it's so huge. And like we were talking before the show, but like Shangela is someone from Paris, Texas. I'm sure like this moment is not lost on her. Being, you know, a performer of color, a queer person, a person from like a very rural area, but also like a state in which, you know, LGBT issues are kind of becoming like very contentious. I'm sure it's not lost on Shangela that, you know, it's not lost on Shangela how impactful and real this moment is. And I'm really proud of her. I really am. I want nothing but the best for her. And, you know, love Trixie down, as we know, love her, but Shangela was robbed. And so
Shangela was robbed.
This feels like a consolation to me.
In the chat, we want to know, was Shangela robbed? The answer is yes. Yeah. We need to see it in the chat.
Absolutely. I need you to hashtag Shangela was robbed. Shelton.
Hashtag Shangela was robbed.
Shelton_Whimsy, get on Stranger Things, babe. You too, reigning Hexagon, get on it. Nova Jones, y'all, come on.
Y'all, we are okay. Honestly, our next story, our third story today is that hundreds of people got married in a mass wedding during LGBTQ Pride Month in Mexico City.
It's so amazing. So in the early 2010s, Mexico, like at large, legalized gay marriage or same-sex marriage. As of right now, 26 out of the 32 states in Mexico recognize same-sex marriage. There are 6 of them that do not. So like people travel from like hundreds of miles for this ceremony, and it's really a big deal because they haven't been able to do that over the past few years because of the quarantine, because of the pandemic. And so it's a really like monumentous occasion. And I think like literally 100+ couples came to get married, and like
it's a mass wedding.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. Gorgeous. And too, like to be able to celebrate in a community that large, and like the joy of like getting married, I'm sure is overwhelming in the best sense, but then to be sharing that with so many others experiencing that joy in a mass celebration makes my heart I feel like crying in the best way, where it's like, yes, we should all be doing this. Like we should all be celebrating. And like, you know, even for some people that, you know, have gotten mass married, I was reading in these stories, like they were wed, but they might live in like a state where it's not recognized. They can still share health benefits and health insurance. And I was like, okay, I like this.
Yeah. That's the real thing about marriage is like, yes, it's the ceremony. Yes, it's like the union and everything but it is also like the legality, like being able to like see each other in the hospital, being able to share health insurance, being able to share custody, like children down the line, like those things really, really matter. And so like, it is fabulous that there is an avenue for that for everyone, regardless of whether or not they live in a state that recognizes that marriage or not. Speaking of the state, Virginia delegate, Kelly Converse Fowler came out as bisexual.
A chaotic bisexual.
Bisexual. She came out as bisexual. The agenda grows every day. But she came out, and I really love this story because it really is a testament to, you know, you can always come out. Like this is a woman who, you know, she's in her 40s, she has 2 children, she's married to a man, and for her, like this was a real step into living her truth, even in a moment in which like that is being frowned upon, and even like later in her life. And I think that's really beautiful.
I think too, it's encouraging too for other people that are kind of in these positions and delegates and our other political leaders who may fear, you know, kind of retaliation or retribution of coming out, or like a negative ramification of coming out. And then, you know, the more people come out and the more people speak about it, and the more people who are representatives and represent the LGBTQ plus normalize it. Absolutely. And it's like, yeah, I'm bisexual, so what?
Right. What does it have to do with my ability to affect good policy change? Like, that doesn't have anything to do with
I'm like, yes, get it more out.
Yeah. Get out there.
So you're gay.
You're gay. Unfortunately, we're gonna have to, you know, go into our last story, which kind of ends on a somber note. As we know, Roe v. Wade was repealed last week, and it has been an incredibly difficult time for people with uteruses, people who are capable of birthing children. It is, I don't even know, Ever, how do you feel?
It's honestly like, it does feel overwhelming and it feels scary. I don't identify as a woman, but I do have a uterus, and to know that I do not have autonomy in the United States, save for a few states, is terrifying. Absolutely. Because it's like, you have control over my uterus. What else do you have control over?
And that's like, really,
yeah, like who's to say now? It's like, well, you can't have top surgery, or you can't have bottom surgery. It's against this, it's against that. That to me is terrifying. It's also, this is impacting marginalized communities. Absolutely. Communities that cannot afford to leave to other states, you know, poor communities. I don't know if that's the PC term, but I grew up pretty poor.
No, I mean, I agree. Like, I feel like this is the tip of the iceberg, you know, like this is not the end of the conversation. And what was really unsettling for me was that after this decision was passed down, the majority opinion that was released by, I believe it was Alito, but also Clarence Thomas released an opinion. But they were like, yeah, we should go look back at, same-sex marriage, and we should look at, the ability to get contraception, and we should look at, like, this is a domino effect telling people how they can live their lives, and like the lives that they're allowed to lead. And I really, really worry about the implication of, maybe not being able to get married in the future, not being able to gain access to healthcare in the future, not being able to like make decisions about my own body in the future.
It also like, when we talk about this to, the importance of equal rights, not just with, gay marriage. When you read about the queer history in the United States, it's kind of reminiscent of the Lavender Scare. And when you were gay or
accused of
committed of a
gay.
lewd act, charged with a lewd act, that's what they would call like homosexual activity, even being seen as queer. Like, again, like we couldn't even wear pants. Women couldn't wear pants until it's weird, kids. It's weird. No, it's weird to me, but it's like also like this idea now, it's like, okay, we keep going back. If we don't say something now, like when is it going to be a point where it's like you can't hold a federal position because you're queer? Right. And that's the importance that we're also talking about. That's what, when you think about equal rights, it's also the right to have a job,
to just navigate the world the way that you want to and still be able to support yourself. And like Nova Jones in the chat asked like, how will you be fighting back? Personally, I like to put my money where my mouth is. So like when that decision passed, I donated to a bunch of local and national organizations that assist with abortion funds, but also ones that are drafting legislation to like combat this rollback of Roe v. Wade at the state level in different states, because a lot of those states have trigger laws that came into effect or will come into effect because Roe v. Wade was repealed. And so like a lot of people like the ACLU are drafting legislation or lawsuits to be able to stemmy those trigger laws for as long as possible, until we can hopefully get Roe v. Wade back, or until more permanent legislation can take place. And so like I've been donating a lot of money because I am like in a position of privilege economically, I think, in order to do that. And so that's what I've been doing.
I've also been doing that. And I've been, because I'm from Texas, also focused on grassroots organizations in Texas, and also on a national level. I've also been going to protests because I feel like that's the right thing to do. I feel that, even if you're unable to go to a protest, you want to, it is this idea of like community and support and raising awareness and saying, you know what, we actually care about this and we're not going to back down. And like, we know that it's like a scary and uncertain moment. And it's also a moment where leaders will be born out of necessity. And like, there's so much more in the It Gets Better project, but like we at the It Gets Better project will continue to offer a platform, a community, and a resource to amplify the voices that we're fighting for. So Absolutely. We know it's terrifying, and we know you could feel lost at this moment, or like directionless of like, what can you do? What can I do? And even just talking about it is something Absolutely. You can do.
Absolutely.
Nova Jones said ACLU, and
I think that one of our moderators put our like social media handles in there. If you go to my Twitter, I do have like a pinned donation thing for different orgs.
I like to donate to Fund Texas Choice. I've also, like, as a comedian, done shows that support Fund Texas Choice. And I think it's important to look for organizations in your own community as well. But like, Absolutely. Our social media, like we have those link trees.
Yeah, absolutely. On my TikTok, I have a bunch of donation links and everything like that as well in my link tree. So please check those out if you feel so inclined. That was a lot.
Let me check the time because I think it's time for a stream cleanse.
Thank God.
Show yourself with long hair, and then when you decided to cut it all off,
That moment as a queer person when you decide that you're gonna shave your head or like get a shortcut is a power that you will never forget. It is adrenaline.
It is. I mean, I have to go get my hair shaved on Sunday. Like this right now feels long, and everyone else is like, "You still have a shaved head." I'm like, "No, you don't get it. There's
Yeah.
something exhilarating about it." Like
No,
Taylor, I don't know about you.
literally.
The first time I shaved my head, I was like, "I don't know about this, guys. Like, call him Scooby Doo." And now I'm like, "Shave it."
No, I literally was so happy. I was like, cut all that off. Cut it all off. I'm good.
I'm having a nice
Speaking of
time.
good,
Y'all, we have an incredible friend of the family joining us today.
yes, we do. So, as we said at the beginning, we had the absolute pleasure 2 weeks ago to look at Single in September by Zolita, who is an amazing queer pop star out right now. And we also had the amazing opportunity to interview her. And so we're going to give you a quick clip to remind you of Single in September, then we're going to go right into the interview.
Wish it would last forever. Laying in bed together with you. But I'm single in September when I didn't wanna be.
Awesome. And we are back. We're super excited to have this interview with Zolita. Thank you so much for joining us. And as always, we start with names and pronouns. I'm Ever. I go by they, them.
I'm Taylor. I go by she, her.
And I'm Zolita, and I go by she, her.
How was your Pride? You performed at LA Pride with like Christina Aguilera and Anita and them. How was that?
Oh my god, it was an iconic day. It was so much fun. Christina Aguilera, her album Come On Over was the first album I ever got for music. So just like being able to be on the same stage as her was insane. And LA Pride also was actually the first Pride I ever went to. And I was in high school and I was still closeted. And I went as an ally, and I remember going and just being like so excited about the community that I was going to get to be a part of. And it made coming out like feel a lot less scary and just like more exciting. So to be able to then like go back to LA Pride and play on the main stage was so incredible. And yeah, it was so fun to perform like the trilogy songs for the first time for people. And yeah, and play with a full band and dancers and the whole thing. It was so awesome.
I love Pride. I love going to Pride. For me, it took a little while to get used to it. Do you have any advice for people who are going to Pride for the first time, especially the youth?
Definitely. So I think if you aren't going, well, hopefully you're going with a friend. If you're not going with a friend, make friends. Like people are honestly like a Pride crowd is the most friendly, welcoming, incredible, just like hearts of gold. Make a friend, make several friends. Like everybody is there to celebrate each other and celebrate you. And I think you really have nothing to be scared about. Yeah, and just like enjoy yourself and be present, and it's going to be amazing.
I just have to add hydrate. Hydrate.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's hot out there.
It's hot out
Hydrate.
there.
Yeah.
I really love that you utilize like the 90s aesthetic in your music. The Clueless, Bring It On, like the Legally Blonde of it all. Like I really love all those sort of aesthetics that you put into your music videos because we as queer people didn't really get that sort of representation at that time. And you also wrote and direct and star in all your videos. Which is amazing. And I'm wondering what the experience is like, both like having to be in front of the camera as the artist, but also dictating what happens behind the camera as like the creator of that content.
Definitely. I mean, the experience is so incredible. Obviously, it's like a lot of hats to wear, and definitely the days of shooting, my brain doesn't. But I think there's like so much prep work that goes into it that on the day of, I feel like everything comes together. But also I have a really incredible crew of queer people around me that I trust so much. So I feel like getting on the same page as my collaborators, like really, really strongly early on, makes the whole thing go so much smoother. And I think, especially with this trilogy, like having a fully queer crew, we all like all of our intention in making this was all in the video, you know. And I think that's like the heart of the video is like we were all putting our own perspective of like we wanted growing up, and yeah, and I think that's why there's like so much magic in these particular videos that I did. But yeah, I think just it's really being able to like edit my own videos. I think so much happens in the editing room. I would never want to give up that control either. And yeah, my videos are my little babies, and it's like the meat of my project, and I always want it to be that way. So yeah, and I think what you were talking about, the using, you know, like the rom-com tropes and the, you know, referencing the rom-coms that we grew up with but didn't necessarily get to see in a queer way, I think serves like two purposes. Obviously for queer people, it's so healing to be able to see that and to see what they didn't get to have, or be able to see like a prom story that's not traumatic, but also for maybe a more like conservative straight audience, like putting a queer love story in a heteronormative structure that they're familiar with kind of humanizes the queer experience and makes it just like less scary. And, you know, so I think, yeah, I've seen the trilogy kind of like serve these two purposes, which has been really cool.
That's amazing.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Like start to finish. I was like, I need a sequel. Literally. Kind of like touching base of like what you said earlier about like juggling so many hats. Like you've edited these videos, you directed these, you wrote them. Like what would you say, or like what advice would you have to like other aspiring artists or new artists who are also trying to juggle so many things in their artistic endeavors?
Definitely. Well, first of all, I think just, yeah, to upcoming artists, like learn how to do everything really well on your own first, because then once you like bring on a team around you, you're able to kind of communicate with people like what you want. I think so much of the time people think like, oh, I need to have a team, I need to have a big team, and then I can like do things. But like YouTube is your friend. Learn how to edit your own stuff. Creative control is so important. And what else would I say? Sorry, someone's outside. I just distracted me. I think other advice. Also, just identify your collaborators early on. I still have people that I've worked with since like 8 years ago. Yeah, find your collaborators that you feel really like understand your vision, and also that you love their vision, and come up together. That's like the most exciting thing about where I'm at right now, is that I still have the same people that I've been working with forever, and now we're all getting to experience things on a little bit of a higher level, which is so awesome. So I think, yeah, collaboration is your friend for sure.
Absolutely. And I love that like you kind of like, I think it's good to have like an insulated group of people, you know, like I feel like a lot of people are like obsessed with having like the entourage sort of like vibe and whatever, and I think that it's much better to have like a close group of creatives to work on projects with. So
yeah, who you trust each other so much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I also
and I think sorry. I was just gonna say one last thing. Like representation, it's like having like diversity in front of the camera, it's just as important to have behind the camera as well. So like diversity on your crew is important. And yeah.
You're hearing a cat.
Cute.
Okay, well, now for something fully different. But thank you so much for your wonderful, beautiful thoughts. They've been amazing. But we are now moving into one of our favorite segments of our show, which is called Canonically Queer.
Canonically Queer.
I'm salsa.
So this is a segment of our show where we ask our wonderful, illustrious guests what the queerest item in your home is. What's the queerest thing you think about like yourself or your upbringing or whatever, or just, you know, the queerest thing in the general vicinity that you can show us.
Okay, this is gonna be hard because I have so many things. But I'm gonna.
Mhm.
Can I just 1 second? I'm just gonna grab.
100%.
Take your time. Take your time. Don't even worry about it. I'm so excited. I love when people leave to go get stuff.
Yeah, they're like, it's like, what are you gonna bring back?
Right. 'Cause they're like, oh, I have to get up. Not an arm's length. I have to go get the thing.
Stretching my legs.
Right. I gotta go get that.
It's a machete. She comes back with a machete.
Just made a TikTok about this like a week ago. It was like, do you think if people could walked into my room, they would know I was gay? And I just like showed all the gay things. Like, it's literally my room. Okay. Got these sent to me, and these were the first things that I saw in my room. So, gay brat dolls.
Oh my god, tight.
Bro.
It's iconic. Like,
Yeah.
and they're girlfriends. They're holding hands. Love it. Yeah. I was a Bratz, definitely a Bratz girl when I was little. So
Oh, I was absolutely a Bratz girl.
yeah.
Yeah.
I saw this. I was like, oh, my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
It literally,
Wow.
one of them's holding a sign that says, I can't even think straight. Yeah. Pretty iconic. And then the
Wow.
other thing is this little card that my girlfriend like stitched for me. And I'm like, that's really gay.
She stitched it for you?
She literally hand stitched.
Oh, that's
that.
nice.
Wow.
Yeah.
If I cry
Yeah,
off
that-
camera, don't say anything about it. Oh my gosh.
That's adorable.
so
That's
sweet.
cute.
That's so sweet. I actually have one more question for you. I like to ask musicians this in general, but like, who was your biggest like music inspiration?
Lady Gaga. Always her. Yeah. In every way. Maybe not even necessarily on the music side, but just like her, like everything she does, like the music videos. I think the music videos are like have always been such cultural moments, and I think that that's what I always like aspire to do with my videos too. Have those talking points.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well-
Go ahead.
Well, go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, like, thank you again for like stopping by Perfectly Queer and hanging out with us. Do you have any projects or any other music videos that you're excited about or like looking forward to sharing or working on?
Definitely. So I have an EP coming out in the fall, so it's a brand new song, and shooting hopefully six videos end of July, all at once, and it's going to be another new narrative world for people to jump into. So I'm really so excited about that.
I mean, I'm also very excited, but I just feel exhausted hearing you talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like,
you are
oh.
like a mover and a shaker. You are constantly doing stuff. It's awe-inspiring, fully. And like, and where can we find you on the socials? Where can people follow you? You know,
At Zolita, just at Zolita on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. I'm on all the things.
Nice. Well, as my co-host said, it's been wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for joining us on Perfectly Queer. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Pride. Thank you for spending time with us.
Thank you so much. You guys are amazing. This is so fun.
Okay, bye.
See ya.
Speaking of cross stitching.
Cross-stitching.
Speeching of cross stitching, talking to y'all. Thank you so much. Also, big props to Zolita. Thank you for stopping by our living room and chatting with us.
Thank you, because we know you're
Tayler,
busy.
when Zolita was like, I have 6 more videos at the end of July, I was like, when do you have time to sleep?
I was literally like, do you sleep? Are you a vampire? What's going on? You know, like you have to be immortal or something. This doesn't make any sense.
The youth
Truly.
these days.
Truly.
Oh my God. William wrote, Zolita is shooting 6 videos, and I'm trying to decide if I have the energy to walk to Trader Joe's after this.
Now listen, William, I was in the Trader Joe's
God,
a few days ago, and
same.
I was exhausted leaving. I was like, I can't believe how tired I am. I need to take a nap.
Honestly, after that interview, I was like, Zolita,
Literally.
what are you doing here?
But you know, there's no
I
time
gotta
to
get
be
my
tired.
act together.
There's no time to be tired because we have to get into the Converse quick hit.
The Converse Quick Hit.
Y'all, Y'all, the Converse Quick Hit is where we share you our favorite friends, trends, and odds and ends from all over the internet. And the first one is from one of our friends. Let's go to the Quick Hit.
Pride. I'm gay. Be gay with me. I need more gay friends. Yes.
Be gay with me.
The leg kick to pretend like that fall was a dip makes me want to die.
Honestly, that would be me just falling down.
And then just giving like a really sad leg kick to be like, that was definitely a dip.
I'm voguing. And I just crumble. No, I'm good, right?
No, it's great, right? Now we move into our trends. Let's look at the video.
In the gays, hop on stage, I got to shake my ass too. Fuck out my way when you see me. I'm rolling with the LGBT. Fuck out my way when you see me. I'm rolling with the LGBT.
I loved that.
I need to know where they shop.
Listen to me. I don't know. Maybe it's just like I don't know how to layer clothes. But how do so many queer people look so cool? They look like anime supervillains, and I want to look like one. Where do you guys shop?
We want to look like anime supervillains.
Release the records. Where do you shop?
Release the records in the chat because we genuinely want to know, and we know some of you are in the chat being like, I can hook you up.
No, literally hook me up. I need to figure it out.
Y'all, our next one is it's all about the fashion, y'all. Let's go to the odds and ends.
My client wants me to help her come out. She told me she wants to say it without saying anything. So I added the pride colors in her lashes. And of course, we added hearts because love wins.
Love wins.
I think that's just such a really beautiful gesture, but also just like a very beautiful, like personal way to come out to people. I just really love that.
I also love that it's like coming out while also doing self-care.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, this is something for you to do. It's something that they're enjoying for them. And it's also going like, hello.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're gay. I'm sorry, Tayler. I'm never going to let that go.
Because I think it's funny.
I love it. Y'all, this has been the Converse Quick Hit. And before we go into our queerly creative video with Zach, we've got a bonus for you. It's another Strim cleanse.
Goths in Ungodly Places 3. The Beach.
Honestly, like all of that was me.
The Nightmare Before Christmas music in the back really set it off for me. I was like, oh yeah, y'all are goth, huh?
It was still fully clothed in the floaties for me.
But listen, you gotta not get sunburned somehow. You know, keeping all your clothes on, that's one way.
Yeah, if you love goths, let us know in the chat. Shelton Whimsy, I love goths. Yes, who doesn't love
same.
goths?
Goths are amazing. They were 2 goths in my high school and they were so nice. I love them.
That's the thing about goths.
Mm-hmm.
We're nice.
They're nice people. They're really nice.
I wear a little. I'm still goth.
Yeah. I mean, listen, you could take the non-binary out the goth, but you can't take the goth out the non-binary.
Okay, now that's something I'm gonna put on a bumper sticker.
On the Bronco.
On the Bronco. Y'all, we are getting we are here now with it's time for our next segment, y'all. It's queerly creative, baby.
Mm-hmm. So, as we said before we got into this next segment, we had the absolute pleasure of talking to one of the It Gets Better Project's youth representatives, Zach Kyung, I believe is how you pronounce his last name. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, because he really deserves it, because he is an activist, an advocate, a public speaker, someone who's involved in his local politics. Perhaps maybe I did have a goth phase, Katie.
Yeah, the chat's blowing up right now. I think we're both a little distracted. Family secret, Tayler had a goth phase.
It was an emo phase. That's my father. He's trying to out me.
It was an emo phase. God.
And it wasn't a phase, Dad. It's who I am. I
don't even know about Taking Back Sunday. You don't even know about Census Fail. You don't even know about Hawthorne Heights.
Anyway,
Tayler, you've been keeping this from us.
Listen. It was a incredibly dark time, and I loved it.
Did you say it was an emotional time?
It was. I was deeply, and I still am. When I hear that G chord from My Chemical Romance, I have a Pavlovian response. You have no idea.
Okay. We are getting off topic.
I'm so sorry.
Our next guest is a political activist, and we're like, you're talking about the Black Parade, Mike.
But anyway, as we were saying, our next person, our queerly creative person, is Zach Kyung. He's an undergraduate at the University of Pennsylvania, and I'm gonna read this little segment about him so that I get it right. Most recently, Zach served on the Howard County Board of Education, and during his term as a Board of Education member, mind you, he's an undergraduate in college. He pioneered the efforts for LGBTQ plus inclusivity by moving a unanimously approved LGBTQ plus studies course, working with staff to allow students the option to use their preferred pronouns and add their pronouns on the school system's digital learning platform.
I mean, incredible.
I literally was screaming Paramore lyrics in my bedroom when I was like 18, and he's like,
we know
I'm on
that
the
now.
board. I'm on the school board.
Yeah, can you also one cool thing about Zach is he is also a member of the It Gets Better Youth Voices and had some incredible speeches, actually, that we're going to show you now.
The mission of the It Gets Better project is to uplift and connect and empower queer youth across the globe. That starts with bringing queer youth to the table.
I wanted to serve the 60,000 students in our county. I wanted to fight for marginalized communities. I wanted to fight for kids like me when no one else would. And I eventually won. It made me the first openly LGBTQ member of the Board of Education at the time of their election. And on the school board, we made great progress. I read a proclamation honoring LGBTQ History Month. At the end of my term, I made a motion that was unanimously approved to develop an LGBTQ studies course, which will now be offered in our high schools this fall. Which makes my county among the first in the nation to offer such a course. I remember not learning about LGBTQ activists during the civil rights movement. I remember learning about Stonewall as it was one bullet on one slide on one day of my US history class. It's crucial that we work together to help the millions of students who across this country are being attacked by anti-LGBTQ legislation, from the Don't Say Gay or Trans bill out of Florida to other state and local legislation that hasn't made the national news. In the words of Dr. King, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
As the community, right? We have a very diverse LGBTQ community, and I think it's important that we continue to recognize the strength that we have in that diversity. I think for far too long, it has been a white-led movement when we know that the history does not reflect that, right? We know that the history of the LGBTQ movement lies thanks to Black and brown trans women. And it's not just white gay men who stood there. And so I think, being both an Asian American and being a queer person, I have these communities that are here to embrace me as my authentic self. And so I think there are real tangible steps that we can make here, and educators can take away from this about building an inclusive classroom. And onto that, I think we have to call out that these bills are driven by the extreme right that are working to dehumanize queer people. Let's also recognize that queer people don't only exist in Maryland, right? What's going on in Florida, what's going on in Texas, what's going on across this country is an attack to fuel a politically motivated select few to attain their grip on power. I'm sorry, you're the president of the United States. Don't say you're powerless. Congress, do something. Don't just sit there and say, you know, it's Pride Month. I'm sorry, take the boxing gloves off. Do something. People are dying. And the best you can sit there is and say, oh, I'm sorry, we're working on it. You know, it's not, LGBTQ inclusive curriculum is not this like, let's feel good, wishy-washy thing, you know, singing sick kumbaya. It's a data-driven approach that saves lives. To all the kids out there who don't know if this Pride is for you, it is. You know, Pride is for everyone. It's for those of us who can be out and proud and sit on the stage here today. It's for those of us who can't. It's for those of us who are questioning and everything in between. And so, Pride's a protest. You existing's a protest. Keep doing what you're doing. Love is love. And yeah, it gets better.
Like, such a powerful young person. And, you know, to be able to find your voice like that at such a young age and to really affect change in your community is such like, I don't know, it's just so inspiring. It really, really is.
It's also like to be that young and that well versed and articulate is so phenomenal and impressive. And like you said, inspiring. And to be able to not only be on the Board of Education, but to also speak at these public events and gatherings is incredible. And that's very brave. Like, it can be scary being on stage and talking to groups of people or being on, you know, a panel for discussion. Like, I'm proud of Zach. Like,
absolutely.
It's like, oh yeah, if they can do it, I can do it.
Yeah.
So I feel motivated. Those videos got me motivated, y'all.
Absolutely. And you know, we'll get to see a little bit more of Zach in our next segment, Thriving and Enliven. Sir, please, I'm begging you.
We are going to be.
My dog would like to chime in and also say that he loves Zach. But this is usually our segment where we look at videos from the It Gets Better project that they've produced. However, this time we're actually going to allocate this time to talk about to talk with Zach in a interview that we gave or did with him last week.
Yeah, we had a great time with Zach, and we're happy to share it with you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome to Perfectly Queer, Zach. We're so excited to have you. The first thing that we do is we introduce ourselves with our pronouns. I'm Ever. I go by they, them.
I'm Tayler. I go by she, her. And who are you?
Oh, sorry. Thanks for having me. My name is Zach. I use he, they pronouns.
Amazing. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, so nice to meet you. Happy tail end of Pride Month. What's been the highlight of your Pride?
I'd have to say it's probably New York. I have a feeling we'll talk a little bit about that, but it was still a pretty crazy experience because besides this Pride, I've never been to an in-person Pride. And so I had DC Pride and then New York Pride, and I mean, both amazing.
Wow. So you were busy. That's so fun.
Just a tad.
So you are an It Gets Better youth representative. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, so in 2020, wow, that's, I'm so used to saying like a year ago, but like then I have to think
yeah.
a little more than a year ago. But a little bit ago, in 2020, right before Pride, I went to like my county's Rainbow Conference and met Justin, who was like the head of the education programming at the time. And it was like this really weird thing. Justin was like, hey, are you interested in this like potential program I can tell you nothing about because it doesn't exist? But, you know, like, do you want to interview? And I was like, oh, sure, you know, sure, why not? And so I ended up interviewing, joined an amazing 3 other youth to start what is now known as the Youth Voices program and the Youth Voices Initiative. And so that started really just for that one Pride of 2020 when the world shut down, and It Gets Better goes, how can we turn our programming virtual and bring Pride to you? And so we helped facilitate that through hosting, it was like several day long 24/7 YouTube live stream, which was pretty cool.
Oh,
and then
that's a lot. That's rad.
Yeah, that's amazing.
It was like,
Yeah.
long. Like I remember I would like sit there and I would like turn it on, and there'd be like a workout, and I'm like, this is not for me, and I'd turn it off. Like, I'd come back later, and it
Just
would be
checking
something,
in.
I would just like check in. I'd like see, So that was pretty cool. And eventually that turned into a full-blown year-long program, expanded to 6 of us. And then this past year, the second year, well, second and a half, I don't know how we're quantifying it, but that turned into what's now known, well, I think there's like 12 or 13 of us. So it's a much larger program now. But the program really works to connect LGBTQ youth across the country who are activists, artists, and really inspiring fellow peers that work to continue making change in their communities. And I can say the best part about the program for me personally is the people that I've met within it. Some of these voices that I met 2 years ago on Zoom. It's crazy to still think like I've except for one, I've never met them in person. And so,
Wow.
like,
I mean,
Uma,
me and Ever have never met in person. So.
Yeah, actually, that's true.
Yeah.
it's a little weird, isn't it? Like trying
A little
to talk to people and then like realizing you've never like guessed their height, Like I think at one point we like tried to rank each other's heights and it was like horribly off. But yeah, I like just met Uma in person. And we went to a Pride together in DC, so that was pretty cool. But besides that, I feel like I have like this like weird digital family, so to speak.
That's lovely.
All comprised of like 2-inch boxes.
That's great. I love that.
So, okay, you just spoke at NYC's Human Rights Conference and at the Pride Rally, correct? Like, was there anything particularly challenging for you? How did you prepare?
Well, I don't want to say like I'm gifted at public speaking because I don't think really anyone is.
You can say it. It's fine.
I feel like we kind of just
okay.
like throw ourselves up there and like see what sticks. And so for me, it was like, yeah, I think it's just like, I don't tend to get nervous until after, which is kind of odd. And so I kind of just like, let me just, we'll figure it out when we get there. I remember for the conference, like that was a rally, not a rally. The conference was a panel. So like, there's nothing I really can prepare. And, beyond the like quick like memo that said, be familiar with the anti-trans and anti-gay legislation and some like other pointers, there wasn't really much to go off of. So I was like, I'll just show up. What happens, happens. With It Gets Better, that was like my first in-person panel, but we've done a bunch together with Youth Voices, talking a lot of about very similar issues. So that was like fine. The rally was the part where I was like, oh my goodness, like this is real. Like there is a stage, there is like a screen that is like 20 feet tall and has our faces on it. Wow. Like everyone's gonna see every pimple on my forehead. Like, oh no, this is not. And there was like so many cameras.
Oh no.
And usually like I'm like a pretty like into protest kind of guy. And so like I like DC Pride, I was at the March for Our Lives, the gun violence prevention protest that morning, and then went to Pride. Like I'm used to like being in the crowd. Being on the stage is like a whole different like experience, especially when like that morning is when the Dobbs case came out, and we were all planning on celebrating Pride and recognizing that it is a protest and it is it started as a riot, but then also going like, holy crap, like what? I mean, I remember like the exact moment. Aside from It Gets Better, I work at the Human Rights Campaign as a campaigns or intern, and so like when I'm there in DC, my job has been like refreshing the Supreme Court page every 10 minutes because that's the intervals when they release decisions. So I remember at 10 a.m. first decision comes out Friday. I keep refreshing. I see it's like I'm not gonna say not important, but it wasn't the one we were looking for, and hoping that would not come. And then like I'm about to take a shower. And so I have like 1 foot in the shower, 1 foot outside the shower with my phone in hand going, it's 10:09. I'll just wait till the next one comes out so I can like shower in peace. And then I click it. I'm like, I mean, I drop my phone I don't even know what to say. I literally just saw jobs, and I'm like, I mean,
wow.
I won't cuss here, but like there was some things I said that should not be on video. And that was like a whole moment of like, holy crap. And then I kind of just like took my speech, threw it out the window, and was like, let's take a different angle. Let's think, what can I add to the conversation? And while still recognizing what's happening at the Supreme Court and what's been happening over the last several decades of, oppression against non-cishet white men in this country. And so I was like, I kind of went back to my roots as like at It Gets Better, which was like sharing our It Gets Better videos, which if you don't know, about 10 years ago when we were founded, we started this like video series where people would share their stories and tell at the end of the story, that it gets better. It's kind of cliche, but that's what we did. And so for me, I was like,
it's nice though.
No, I remember that campaign. It was really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like we kind of, I don't know what kind of happened with it, but I was like, let me just do that. And so I wanted to share like my story and, how I came from, a religious and conservative household to an out and proud activist who happens to be speaking at New York Pride in some very quick, short years. So that was a pretty awesome experience. Still pretty crazy, my face was like that big on a pretty awesome experience.
That's amazing. You said that you like rewrote the whole speech, which is I think was very appropriate, but also like it's a crazy thing to do before you like speak in front of all of those people.
It wasn't even done till like 5 minutes before. I mean, I was sitting backstage
like
talking to like all of the people and trying to like, I think it's important that we have people who are centered at these decisions that are speaking about it, right? Like I, as a cis man, this isn't necessarily like my place. I definitely have a right, not a right, but like I think everyone, including cis men, should speak out, but we should be centering people who are gonna be affected by this decision, women and trans people, people with uteruses. And so I kind of left that space open for people who are going to be really affected by this decision. And then while also recognizing like, like this is like some BS. I don't know if that's allowed, but
yeah.
Scary.
Of course it's allowed.
Like, fine. Yeah.
I had that moment actually at the panel. I was like, I'm trying so hard not to cuss here because I was in like a very heated, emotional talk about the effects that these anti-trans and anti-LGBTQ legislation is going to have. And I was like, I'm trying so hard. And then I kind of I lost it. I dropped an F-bomb. I could see like the New York Pride people go, okay. And some people in the crowd started snapping. And I was like, okay, we're good. Like,
yeah.
That's a little F-bomb amongst friends now.
Exactly. I was like, it wasn't directed at anyone in particular. Right. So, it was fine. It demonstrated the heavy emotional connection I have to this issue. And I think that the impact that it will have on kids, whether, we really have a say in the decision or not.
Absolutely. Was there any other speeches or like anything anyone else said that like really resonated with you when you were there at the events?
Yeah, there is, I mean, all the speeches were so incredible. One that really stuck out to me, and I think stuck out to a lot of people, was, I'm going to mess up the last name, but Chase. He's with the ACLU project, the ACLU, sorry. I'm so used to saying It Gets Better project. I always had project organizations, but he's with the ACLU and he leads their like transgender center for justice. And without putting it into explicit terms, kind of just said F the Supreme Court a bunch of times and talked about how, like, this is not the beginning. It is not the beginning. This has been happening forever. And it is, important that we recognize it as such. And LGBTQ people
it's a continual history,
right? Like
it's a continual history, ongoing.
Exactly. It's not this is a future problem. Like, this is a problem now, and people are going to die. People are dying, and so we should recognize it as such. That was an incredibly powerful speech. So did another really amazing speech was Skylar Baylor, who is the first trans male athlete to compete in a Division I college swimming team, and so. He had an incredibly powerful speech about the importance of inclusion, especially in, the wake of hundreds of anti-trans legislation happening across the states. That is, quite despicable, to say the least.
Absolutely.
It is very inspiring to see so many people, especially like young people and younger people. You started out, I'm sure it's not just here, but as like a member of your county school board, which is incredible and awesome. So it's like, while there is all of this heavy news, it's also like, it's almost like a balm, or it's even something that's even more motivating to stay out on the streets, to stay proactive, to stay informed, and learning what you can do. And I think that the work that you're doing and the It Gets Better Project and members of the ACLU are really, I mean, they're inspiring us. They're inspiring youth. They're going to be inspiring youth and generations to come. I loved how you said that this is like not the beginning, right? Like we've been fighting. This is something that's been on the wall. It's something that we will always fight for our rights. Right. We will always have people, you know, standing up and supporting. And, you know, being queer for me is like knowing, you know, if I see someone, I'm like, I don't really like you, but you're also queer, and by that we are in a sense a chosen family, you know. So it's like we will at the end of the day, exactly, solidarity. So it is like, while there is all of this heavy news coming in, like for our viewers, it's like so nice to like be speaking with you, because it's a reminder that it's like we're not alone and we're not being passive. We're actually being quite active and having each other's back. So just like thank you for all of the work that you're doing and for being with us today and chatting about your experiences. Like speaking at NYC like Pride and the Human Rights Conference is like incredible. Like goals, you know what I mean?
Never would have thought that 3 years ago.
I mean that's
New York,
incredible.
And you're gonna speak in New York at a Pride.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's dope. That's pretty cool. Okay, so now we're gonna move into something a little bit lighter. And it's a game where we ask our guests to find kind of like the queerest thing in their room. And I guess in your case, in your hotel room. And it's a silly little game called Canonically Queer. Feel free to dance if you want to dance.
Conveniently in arm's reach, I have the authentic, one and only It Gets Better fanny pack. So I don't know if it's going to be in frame. I'll put it where my face would be. That way I know it's in frame.
You can see it. I love it.
But it says "Be You Every Day" on it with the It Gets Better color scheme. I really like it. I wore it at Pride, and that was pretty awesome. It's like very convenient fanny packs are. Like I don't know why they went out of style.
Listen.
Oh, there's so
I love a fanny pack. I don't care if they're in style or not.
Right, like it's so convenient, you know, you can like wear it over the shoulder, around the hips, like you know however you want, you put your phone, like it's just so convenient. But yeah, I like that because I think it symbolizes a lot about, you know, like my personal journey, and that It Gets Better has certainly been a part of that journey. I mean, going from someone who is like depressed and in the closet to, you know, this like out, you know, very proud activist who
being someone who's depressed and in the closet, and now you're speaking at NYC Pride.
Yeah,
You know,
what a glow up. We love that.
Hello. Yeah, we love that.
So It Gets Better.
This is incredible.
And a really cute fanny pack. I would like get some of the other stuff, but it's spread out everywhere, probably in a closet. No pun intended. But, you know, you have to figure out where it is. So, but thanks for having me. It has been really awesome getting to chat with you.
Absolutely. Oh, before you go, where can we find you on the socials?
You can find me at Zach Kong, so the @ symbol, and then ZACHKOUNG. That's Instagram, Twitter, all of the major social media platforms.
Fabulous.
That is incredible.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today, Zach, taking time out of your very, very busy Pride schedule to speak with us. It was an absolute pleasure, and we hope you have a great rest of your day.
You as well.
Zach is so amazing, and
I'm very excited to see what he does in the future, you know, after he's done with school or while he's in school. Like, I'm very excited to see kind of where life takes him. He's clearly a very effective young leader, and we need as many of those as humanly possible. So I'm very excited to know that there are young people like him navigating the world and affecting change. I think that's amazing.
Thank you, Zach. Oh, we got a pronoun check from Jively Jolts. I go by they, them.
I go by she, her.
y'all need to do, we see queer for Legos, they, them. Let's get that chat going. Also, like, let us know how you're feeling in the chat about Zach. Like, this is incredible. Like, what are you up to? What are your goals? What are your goals, everybody? Could you imagine,
William?
Y'all, we know that this has kind of been like a heavier episode, especially with the news. And this is a segment where we actually talk about it. So let's talk about it.
Life is hard. Life is hard, and sometimes it just is really helpful to be able to talk about, you know, questions that you might have, and in order to navigate your own life. And of course, like, we can only speak to our own private experiences with y'all, but like, we hope that they give you a sense of solace when you like send us questions or like have questions for us that we can answer on the show. And so the question that we got this week, in lieu of everything that has been going on, is how do you stay present and kind to yourself when the news is so traumatic and you're exhausted?
What a great question.
What a great question.
It's a great question. It's also like, while you're asking, like, I'm reminding myself, like, oh yeah, what do I do? For me, it's sometimes just sitting still and sitting in quiet for maybe 10 minutes. Some may call it meditating. There's definitely some of that, but sometimes just steadying myself. And because my thoughts will run a mile a minute, and it's like hard to be like, oh, like it can feel like very panic inducing and anxiety inducing. And for me, what I'll do is I'll meditate, do some deep breathing, and then I'll think about, well, what can I control? What am I in charge of? And I can control what I do, and I can control my activism, and I can control the way I get involved. And it's also like a nice, friendly reminder to be like, there are no bad emotions or no bad feelings. There's just feelings. So sometimes when I get angry, I think, oh, I shouldn't be angry. And it's like, well, it's okay to be angry. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to feel overwhelmed. You know, they're passing emotions. And I think too, to be kind to myself is, y'all, I write a love letter to myself. Straight up, I write a love letter. I say, dear Ever, I start it, dear Ever, comma, I love you. And I list all the reasons why I love myself. And it's also a great self-esteem booster. So I encourage you all to write love letters to yourself. What
I love that. I think that's, people don't write enough love letters as it is anymore. So writing one to myself might be the only way I get one. I guess, I don't know. I definitely agree with you, Ever. I think that it is incredibly important to take time for yourself and to also recognize that your feelings are not only okay, but oftentimes they are incredibly appropriate. I think it is appropriate to be angry and like nervous and fearful and scared in times like this. I think that it is incredibly appropriate to feel that way. I think with me, I have to zoom in a little bit. I feel like when I zoom out too far, I feel too small, and I'm like, there's nothing that I can do. And that is not a healthy amount of nihilism. You know what I mean? Like, there's the type where you're like, oh, the universe is so big and my problems are so small, and like that puts things in perspective for you. But sometimes it's like everything is so big and there's nothing I can do, and I feel completely powerless. And so like, it's really useful to me to zoom in and to be like, okay, what can I do like at a local level, at a state level, that can be really helpful? Because I think that people often, like when you hear about something like Roe v. Wade getting repealed on like, and like, so like at a federal level, like this is happening, it feels like, oh, so that's it then. Like there's no like recourse, or there's no like way out of it. And I think that that has been disproven over this last week and a half, in that like people in states and at the local level, at the county level, at the city level, have been organizing, mobilizing, donating, and creating spaces and fail safes for the continuance of people to like have access to their rights. And so I think finding those communities and building community with your neighbors, you know, with your colleagues, your classmates, your friends, will I think takes some of the sting out of feeling like you are powerless in the greater scheme of things, because that's not true. You know, you do have power as a person when you multiply that by other people who feel the same way as you.
I think that's beautiful. It's also a great reminder.
Yeah.
And if you're listening at home, right? If you're listening to our listeners watching at home, it feels like we all just need like a collective like breathe in and a sigh. How do you feel about that, Taylor?
Yeah, I would really enjoy it actually.
Okay.
Can we just
Yeah, let's all take a deep breath in. Let it out with a sigh.
Thank you for the question. Keep sending them to us. We really love being able to interact with you guys this way. You know, we really love being able to like give you that advice.
And also like in the chat, if you have any questions that, you know, again, like we didn't catch this time, we're here for you. Drop your questions in the chat. We want to know what you're thinking, what you need help with. And, you know, if we can't answer it today, we'll hopefully get to it on the next episode. And, you know, Neela, 4567 wrote,
yeah,
or Nala. Oh, Nala. Yeah. Nala just wrote, you know, my dad doesn't support me. I'm so sorry to read that, Nala. I don't worry what others think. It's my dad. I want him to support.
Yeah.
That's very heavy, Nala.
Yeah. And it's real.
And it's real.
I feel like, you know, it's easy for a lot of people to be like, you know, like, forget the people that don't, you know, care about you, or, you know, that don't like support you, whatever. Find the people that do. And like, we are guilty of like saying like, you know, find the people that care about you and like, fuck everybody, or, you know, forget everybody else.
Yeah.
But it's really hard when it's someone that you're close to, especially a parent, because, you know, you assume that that love will be unconditional. But no, it's important that you understand that you haven't done anything wrong to get your dad to feel that way. Like, there's nothing that you've done as a person that should have gotten that sort of response from your father. And that really has nothing to do with you, you know?
It's got nothing to do with you. And Nala, too, like on what Taylor is saying, like it is really hard. And it's also okay to, I think it's kind of important for me to call in grace for these people. And that is a very involved act. It's a very brave act. It doesn't necessarily take the hurt or the pain away all at once, but having that grace and having that kindness and finding the bravery and the patience to, I don't know if you've spoken to your father, it sounds like you have, or if you've spoken to him and saying, hey, I'm really hurt because you don't support me, and still showing him grace and love in spite of that. Because I've got some very dear friends and it took them a while, but their family came around, especially, you know, some members of my family, and it is just showing them grace. And you would think it would be the other way around, but it's kind of being patient and loving yourself and going out there and living the life that you want to live. And that's hard. It's not in like, I'm going to go walk down the street and go get a Slurpee. Okay.
Right. And live in grace
I'm
and
like
be
on
graceful.
one right now because that pain is real.
Yeah.
And
It
it's
absolutely
showing
is.
up for yourself, and it's showing love to yourself that it's going to help you get through this.
And acknowledge that this is hurtful. Don't ever push that down, you know, because in order for you to be able to enact the grace that Ever is talking about, you have to recognize how you feel first. You know, in order to reach that point of grace, in order to be able to like get there, you have to first reconcile with how you feel and if that's something that you want to do. We really hope that was helpful. And we are with you, you know, Nala, even if, you know, there are people in your life that aren't, we are. So.
And also, like, for everyone watching. I was gonna say listening and watching. I'm tired. I wish I had Zolita and Zach's energy right now. You can find so many more resources on the It Gets Better website at itgetsbetter.org. We're always here for you. We always want to support you, but unfortunately, it's time to say goodbye for now.
Yeah. But we will be back July 20th. It'll be a super fun show. So we'd love to see you all here again, you know, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed in the middle of the evening.
And if you need a pep talk, Nyla, guess what? We're going to be on Twitch and YouTube. You can watch it again because you're awesome.
You are. You rock. You rock, Nyla. Don't let anybody tell you different.
Don't let anybody tell you that.
Literally. And then also, before I forget yet again, we like to thank our sponsor, the Humble Bundle community, for which the show would not be possible without their generous contribution. Thank you so much, Humble Bundle community, for allowing us to do this.
Tayler, what's one thing you're taking away from this episode?
You know, we got to find those silver linings, man.
Yeah.
Things are hard right now, but things are also like, there's so much change being affected positively. I think we get bogged down by the negative a lot because it's easy to fixate on it, but positive things are happening every day. And it's important to recognize that as much as you recognize the bad. How are you? What are you going to take?
I would say the same thing. Like, it's very hard right now. And one thing I'm taking away is the reminder to be gentle with myself, and a reminder to be like, this is what I can give today, whether it's activism, donations, checking in with myself, especially when things feel difficult, especially when the news is very hard and very heavy. It's so important to check in with your own heart and your own mind and what your own needs are. So that's what I'm taking away. What do I need today?
Period.
It's a 7-Eleven Slurpee. Clearly, I was like, you're walking to get a Slurpee.
Said that, and I was like, Slurpee sounds good.
Slurpee sounds so good right now.
So we're gonna say ta-ta for now, y'all. Get our Slurpees on. But thank you for joining us for Perfectly Queer. We hope that you stay perfectly queer in the next 2 weeks before we see you. We love you very much. Bye.
Bye.